countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, it is now time for more of the Last Comic Shop podcast!
That is right. We are opening up the shop to newbies to help them find their way underneath this giant comic book tent of ours.
And we're keeping the lights on for the oldies and the moldies and the creepies and the crawlies and the
People with secrets.
Shush with the secrets!
secretions. Wait, no.
No, not secretions. We're not that kind of podcast. I'm the host with the most, Andy Larson. I'm joined by Chad Smith and J.A. Scott. And who knows what might happen? As you know, it is the spooky time of the year. And at the Last Comic Shop, we decided this week to do something fun. I'm breaking out the old Ouija board. That's right. The Ouija board. And I thought, like, every single party in middle school, we would sit around and bring out the hoary hosts of Hogarth, whatever we can conjure up with this thing. But
people with secrets.
My wife has secrets. That's her deodorant.
In any case, I thought that we would do this, hold a little seance for the Last Comic Shop, and who knows who might show up at the shop as a result. So, all right, guys, put your hands on there, right? Okay, here we go. We summon the spirits that are nearby. If there's anybody here who wants to talk to us.
All right. I've had enough of this.
It's working!
I have had enough of this. Oh, my God.
Who's this? Who are we talking to?
What do you boys want?
We're talking to the undead, the afterlife, the spirits. Who are you, spirits?
Let's not get too excited about it, all right? My name is Earl Dryden, but you can call me Earl Dryden or Mr. Dryden.
Mr. Dryden, what are you doing in our comic shop? What brings you here today?
Well, you summoned me from the afterlife. I like to say it that way. It freaks the kids out.
There you go.
What? I'm a little freaked out. So Earl, why us? Like, I mean, are you involved with comics? I don't recognize your name, but like, is that why you're here at a comic shop?
Young man, I was in funny books since before your grandfather was in diapers. I worked for them all. All the different. I worked for.
You worked for them all.
Which mall?
I worked for American. I worked for Ace. I worked for Lev Gleason. May he rot in hell. I worked for all of them. Power, Novelty, United Features Syndicate, Rural Home. I wrote issues of Patches. You ever hear of Patches? It was a Western. We loved it. It was good stuff.
Patches! Oh my goodness! Wow, I've never heard of you though.
Hold on. I gotta know. Was Earl a ghost writer? The flaming head and whatnot?
The reason you haven't heard of me was because of a son of a bitch named Stanley Leibowitz.
Oh! No, you're not telling us that Stan Lee, the wonderful Stan Lee, stole some of your ideas?
Wonderful, my ass! Stan was many things, but wonderful he was not. However,
He even stole your accent.
he did. Well, we grew up in the same apartment building.
So does that mean we can blame you for those hockey NHL Guardian Marvel mashup?
No, nothing about no NHL. You can blame me for all of it. You almost had my name on the bottom of all of your comics when you were kids, because all of those ideas that he spit out in the 60s, they were my ideas.
Oh, wow! The Fantastic Four, that was your idea.
No, my idea was a Fantastic Five. All the same characters, plus a little boy named Sparky, who used to shoot little electricity things out of his fingers, But Stan was like, they don't want no kids in the comics no more. This is the 60s. He thought the idea of a kid sidekick was very 1940s.
Oh, I see.
So
wow.
No Sparky.
No Sparky. We got denied Sparky.
But that bastard brought in Herbie years later. You know what? Herbie was just Sparky with no legs. That's all he was.
The little robot boy with sparks coming out of his fingers.
Very true.
Robot.
But you had all the rest, like Ben Grimm. That was your idea. Sue Storm. That was your.
She was invisible, but only on certain days of the week. That was my idea. Is that for 1 week out of the month you couldn't see her. She was gone. She left.
Oh no!
I may be there. Who knows?
Oh,
and I called her the disappearing woman.
The disappearing broad.
I modeled her after my wife. Yeah.
Wow. What about Silver Surfer, Galactus, all those characters, right? Did you come up with them?
Well, Silver Surfer is an interesting thing. So it was 1965, and I had gone out on a little bit of a vacation down to Malibu, California to visit some friends of mine. When I was there, I was, experimenting in certain, we'll say, controlled substances. And at one point, I had taken some form of a mushroom, and I saw some man come out of the water with a surfboard, and he was from head to toe spray painted silver, and everything is dingle was hanging out. It was bejeweled. It was the most beautiful thing I ever saw. And I went back to Stan, and I said, Stan, we gotta do this. We gotta do it. And Stan said, sure, we can do it, but he's gotta wear breeches. And I was out. From that point on.
So if we had your vision of Silver Surfer, he would have just been completely nude. Just completely buck naked. Just
of
hanging
course.
out the wind.
What the good Lord gave us. That's right. But bigger.
And bejeweled.
I wanted to touch on an audience that comic books
it does change the whole "to me, my board."
It sure does. It was a creative step that he wasn't willing to take. And that to me was unconscionable. That was when the rift started to fall. I think, but really, the whole thing began with the spider thing, which I found to be. I wanted the young man to be bit by a radioactive spider, have spider powers for about 2.5 days, but then die of cancer because of the radiation. I said it would have more of a punch. But Stan didn't want to do it.
That's kind of dark, Earl. That's a little bit dark. Like, I can see how Stan might want to, not go that route.
Thank goodness there was no Amazing Fantasy 16.
I was bringing storylines in there that had not been touched on. Stan wanted to bring a bit of the realism to his books. He wanted it to be superheroes, but like real life. Spider-Man couldn't get a girlfriend. The Fantastic Four were considered freaks. The X-Men were gay. I don't know. I wanted to take it a step further. I wanted it to show real life. I wanted the kids at home to read a book, close it, and understand that life is a cesspool, and it's going to beat you every single moment of the day. And then the day you die is going to be such sweet relief. But Stan didn't want to do it. Stan thought kids wanted to read happy things that made you feel good at the end. And maybe he was right. I don't know.
I think he's a little bit right. I don't know if I would want the Submariner swimming around in a cesspool. Like, that just seems kind of icky, right? Like, I
also appreciate that the Submariner wore those little fishy underpants. So it sounds like he might have had all sorts of sea clams and everything else down there.
See, my idea was that the Submariner and the Human Torch, the original Human Torch, were actually the same character. He was Submariner in the water, and when he came out of the water, he burst into flames, and it hurt him. It hurt him so bad. And he turned into a villain when he was above water.
Oh,
because he was burning alive.
He was burning alive. Goodness.
And then he'd go back in the water and be happy again. You got to understand his dichotomy, you see. You kids with your comics these days, you don't understand.
Wow. Before we let you go, what about the Mighty Thor? Did you have anything going on with the Mighty Thor back in the day?
Stan insisted on doing Thor. I was thinking of a different god. I was thinking perhaps Hercules, and Stan said, no, I don't want to do Hercules, I want to do Thor. And you know what that son of a bitch ended up doing anyway? Tell me. Yeah.
He ended up doing Hercules. It was very
sure
popular.
Did,
it was that movie. Steve Reeves, he knew where the money was coming. No, I think Stan had a nose for this business.
Stan Lee got to make all those cameos, man. Yeah, you missed out.
Oh, no. If you look real close, I'm in there too. I really am. Like the kid who blew his head off in the 3 Men and a Baby movies, that ghost. I'm there. There's a scene, there's a couple of scenes. I'm in one
You're
of
the Ted Danson standee?
I am. I'm in one of the cages in the collector's museum thing. I'm like right behind Howard the Duck and like to the right. That's me. I'm in so many of those. They're great.
I want to know, what was your relationship like with the other folks in the bullpen, with Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby, and how did they take to some of your ideas?
I had made some mistakes in my younger days, so I wasn't actually allowed 20 feet out of my apartment. Those are stories that I can't get into it, so I never met any of them. The only one I liked was Ditko, because he never left his apartment either. I think I would have gotten along with him. Nothing like that, and you know, when I died, nobody knew, nobody came to the funeral, nothing like that. My wife, I should have been making them big bucks from all them movies, but nah, not a dime.
Well, Earl, we thank you so much for your time today and coming in your spectral form to the Last Comic Shop and offering some of these glimpses into the unknown past of comic books. The pleasure
is all mine. I appreciate you for letting me finally tell my story.
I wish you would stop pleasuring yourself over there. It's really getting kind of gross.
Yeah, we were talking about the ooze before, and you know, it's hard to clean up on the back issues here. But thanks, Earl. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Hey, you boys can reach out anytime you want. I'm not doing anything down here, really.
We definitely will. How do you turn this thing off, Jay? Is there an off switch? Can we disconnect this call?
Throw it in the corner. Throw it in the corner.
All right. Thank you so much. If you didn't realize, that was the wonderful Mikey Wood on today's program, playing Earl Dwyer. Was that his name?
I can't even remember.
Good old Earl.
It was like an hour ago. It is the same voice that I used for Stan Lee, but they legally said I can't do Stan Lee.
That's true. That's true. But we're hoping everybody enjoyed that little sketch. Thanks so much to Mikey Wood. He's going to be sticking around for the rest of the episode. We'll be right back with his pick for October with House of Secrets. That's right. Not the one that you may think of. It's actually the Vertigo issues from the mid-90s. So stick around for that.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Looking to save money on your collectible supplies? Whether it's comics, cards, sports memorabilia, or miscellaneous pop culture bric-a-brac, make sure to use promo code LCSPOD to get 10% off your orders at bcwsupplies.com. Not only does it get you a discount on BCW's already low prices, but using LCSPOD at checkout is an amazing way to show support to the Last Comic Shop podcast, the most incredible comic book podcast on the airwaves. So if you are in need of collectible supplies, head out to bcwsupplies.com and use promo code LCSPOD today. That's promo code LCSPOD. Cheers!
Hello, Internet. It's George from Shortbox Summary. I started going to the comic shop every week when I was a kid back in 2004, and I thought it was a golden era for the medium. While my first love is comics, my second love is the 2000s. So please join me as I revisit the mid-2000s comic book scene to figure out if the books were good or if I was just 15. This is a retrospective show that takes a look back at Marvel, starting with Avengers Disassembled and talking about the movies, music, TV, sports, and everything in between that made that era what it was. If you like the Last Comic Shop podcast, please give Shortbox Summary a listen, because I like the Last Comic Shop podcast, and I invite those guys on as much as I possibly can. Hope to see you soon, true believers.
All right, everyone, lace up your Doc Martens, throw on that flannel shirt, and break out the Case Logic CD binder. That's right, we're going back to the 90s with this week's Read Pile Review. Chad, what do we got?
Okay, so we are reading 10 issues from House of Secrets, which began publication in 1996, and it was written by Steven Seagle, with art by Teddy Kristiansen. And then we did have a couple fill-in issues as well. Duncan Fegredo filled in on art on issue 6, and then Christian Hogard filled in with layouts that Teddy Kristiansen finished on issues 9 and 10. And then we also had Bjarne Hansen on colors, Heroic Age on separations, Todd Klein on letters, and Shelley Roberg edited the whole thing together.
Okay. And Mikey, what happened in these 10 issues of House of Secrets?
Rain Harper arrives in Seattle, Washington, as a sort of itinerant hitchhiker running away from her past, which may or may not be as she describes, and she needs a place to crash, and she meets a young lady by the name of Tracy who says, you could crash at my house. And it just so happens that her house is the House of Secrets, which houses in the pantry a spectral courtroom featuring the jurists, which act as judge, jury, and executioner for people that they pull off of the streets, to people who have secrets that they've never addressed. And Rain is put in charge of actually making the decisions. Is this person guilty, which means they are sent to basically hell, which is in another room of the house for eternity, or is this person not guilty and they're allowed to continue on with their lives, although it's much more difficult for that. But anyway, and it's in the interim there is many 90s references. It's very much a product of its time. So
Yeah.
I think Allstate's still using the ad slogan they reference it 30-some years later.
that's right.
I won't lie that I put on some it's a Sirius XM station called Lithium. That's all they do is they just play grunge. And so I put that on and I was just like, I'm ready to reconnect with that period of time when I was like 16, 17 years old, reading comic books. Because again, this was one that I'd never read even back in the day. I was not a huge Vertigo guy. So when Mikey said, I put it to him, I said, pick something that means something from you that's kind of got spooky related atmosphere or something like that. And I was thinking he was going to pick Hellblazer or Preacher or something like that. And he comes in with House of Secrets. So I was very curious.
Yeah.
Why House of Secrets, Mikey, of all these other Vertigo books?
Because it was on my desk at the time. It was. I've been going through my boxes. I'm kind of rearranging things, and my big pile of House of Secrets was on the right. And I also thought maybe you did Hellblazer somewhere along the line. I tried to pick out books that I think that you guys are probably going to hate. Like, wow. No, just because it's an unconventional art style. Teddy Kristiansen has a very unconventional art style. It's a very dark series. It is.
Everybody has secrets.
Yes, and so it's not a feel good sort of comic, but I think it fits in that spooky sort of thing, and it came from the original House of Secrets book being a horror anthology that was done by DC from 1956 to 1976. Was featured in Sandman, with the House of Secrets and the House of Mystery being across from each other with the
Was that the Cain and Abel?
Yeah, that was Cain and Abel, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
for legal reasons, they couldn't use Cain and Abel in this particular series.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so it was.
Whenever I hear Cain and Abel, I always think of that trucking company, Cain is Abel.
That's right. So House of Mystery and House of Secrets were across from each other. They both had, as was the style set forth by EC and things like that. A lot of these books had hosts to them. So Cain was the host of House of Mystery, and Abel was the host of House of Secrets. House of Secrets also being famous for issue 92 in 1971, which was like the proto Swamp Thing, first ever Swamp Thing story. But anyway, for some legal reason, they couldn't use Abel in this House of Secrets book, probably because he was tied into the Sandman thing, and that was kind of going on its own thing. But yeah. So it kind of all harkens back to that wonderful thing with the Sandman universe, sort of weaving all of these DC horror books into one big tapestry. So.
Well, I think I want to start off with some initial thoughts from Chad, because again, I feel like Chad might be the most critical when Mikey said, "Oh, you guys are going to hate this." If you've never listened to the show before, Chad does hate grunge music for sure.
Yeah.
So, what did you think, Chad?
So yeah, this book was a heap and helping a knot for me. I mean, it takes me back to the time when people sang unironic songs about spoon people that lacked any joy or any sort of warmth. And that's not to take away, like, this book is what it is. It's a very 90s Vertigo. You have the unreliable narrator who's not really all that great of a person, you know, who's whip smart and snazzy and mean to people and
Hard to like.
Yeah, and judgy because she's, well, not judgy, she's a witness, but, you know, sometimes they lean in and be like, what do you think? And like, oh, we should send him to hell. You know, I don't know. There was so much of this that, like, I can see why people would appreciate it. Those people are not me because I did not like it. Not one bit. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, J.A., you are a little bit more, in terms of the shine, I don't think it's completely come off the 90s for you. And so, like, I'm curious, what did you think?
The first story arc, to be honest, I didn't really enjoy that much. It took me a while to get into it because of the unreliable narrator. Am I supposed to like her? Am I not supposed to like her? What's going on? Why does everybody have these horrible, horrible pasts? Can't we just have what we think are bad secrets but are really just run-of-the-mill secrets that everyone has? And I think they start to get into that a bit as the series goes on. So I'd be interested to hear how it continues after the 10 issues that we read. So I was kind of back and forth on it. Is it good? Is it just okay? There was a lot of dark stuff. Some of it turns out to be not true. Some of it very much is true. We're talking, this is for mature readers. It says it on the cover. So just if you're out there listening or looking for comics to suggest to children, this is not one of them.
Yeah, we should put the disclaimer at the top too. There's self-harm, there's suicidal ideation, there's rape,
Sex,
murder.
Yeah.
Like, make a laundry list of bad stuff, and it's drawn in here somehow.
Yeah.
But then I got to issue 7, and issue 7 is sort of a bottle issue where it's telling the story of the house, how the house got built in various different ways, in various different levels, from the architect who did the house to the land that used to be owned by Native Americans, to the house itself, to the first people that lived in the house, and all these evil secrets and bad things that went on. Just a lot of bad juju, man. There's a lot of bad juju with that house. And this is how it came about. So it's sort of telling you why the House of Secrets is the House of Secrets. I really enjoyed that issue.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you brought that one up. I will be very blunt that I didn't get into the first 5 issues because I was really expecting this book to be what I think of when I think of House of Secrets, which is an anthology series where we are basically getting a different story. Maybe you'd have a 2-issue arc or whatever, but you wouldn't really have the same characters showing up all the time. So to be blunt, this whole notion of like the Seattle grunge scene, I won't lie, now in retrospect, these are very cliche characters. We're all runaways and trying to, jump on the scene with screaming into the mic and mosh pitting. And, it just seemed very cliche from what was, the 90s culture, especially when you're looking now. So I really did appreciate pretty much the series starting with issue 6, because issue 6, J.A. had pointed out in the pregame, was kind of like a fill-in issue. But still, it was different, and it wasn't about Rain anymore. It was telling some other story about this guy that's in AA and why he became an alcoholic, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And that was like a secret that was developed. Then you had issue 7, to J.A.'s point, with like the fact that the house was originally built on this Native American land that was like, he was tied to a rock and somebody drowned his kid, and then like the wife has an affair with an architect. And I was just like, oh, this is crazy stuff. And I really like that. And then you had in issue 8 and 9, you had them traveling into the past, and you had all the same characters, except they were in like the early 1900s. And that was kind of like an interesting little story going on there. And so I felt like, had this series from the beginning been more of that, had I gotten 10 issues that were more of that anthology, I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more, Mikey. I mean, is that fair? You know,
Yeah, sure.
Do you think we're wrong?
No, of course not. No, it's not a book that makes you feel good when you're reading it, but you got to also understand I was reading this in 1996, and at the time it was like, it's a horror book, and it was just like those earlier issues kind of, it's, the first 5, I guess, are called Foundation anyway, so it's kind of setting up what everything is in a long roundabout kind of way with sort of a surprise ending, showing what Rain is going to have to do. But, I mean, it kind of is an anthology in a roundabout sort of way, because every issue or every couple of issues sort of focuses on a different individual that's being judged and their story. But it's not as much of an anthology as the original books were, where there was no tying bind other than the host in the beginning saying, now's a story about blah, blah, blah. There's not enough of those anthology books anymore, if there are, really. As far as I know, the last one I ever read was like House of Mystery, when like it was like Elvira's House of Mystery and Elvira was the host of it. Right. I think that's the last horror anthology book that I remember reading where there was no connecting thread.
I'm going to put that to you, Mikey, is, I thought that Vertigo would have had a great opportunity to bring back the anthology, like the true anthology. You're right that with a lot of their other books, whether it was Hellblazer or Sandman, they had anthology aspects to it, but they still had these characters that would go from issue to issue. And I think that's where this was like, oh, we want to be Sandman, and we want to introduce all these Sandman-esque characters and build this bigger universe, and then also have the anthology stuff on top of that. And I was just like, well, it was hard for me not to think of it as kind of like a little bit of a knockoff. Like, oh, here comes even this woman she even looked like Sandman at the first with the crazy hair and the trench coat. And I'm like,
oh, it most definitely, I mean, that's why I read it, and Vertigo was relatively new at the time, and they were all riding off of the success of those sort of books. As the stories go on, as the series, it ran like 26 issues, and then there was like a 2-issue miniseries called Facade. Actually, 25 issues, if I remember correctly. As it goes on, you learn more about the jurists, which is really interesting. You learn a little bit more about their history, individual histories, and they all have kind of an interesting sort of thing that ties them together, something that happened in their lives. I was reading a lot of dark stuff at that point in my existence. I wasn't a particularly dark person, but I was reading a lot of horror books.
Robert Smith. Anything that looked like Robert Smith, you're like, yes, thank you.
Yeah, right. And
I had a question about, so does the house then start to follow her around? Is it more like a metaphysical thing than a actual place near Seattle?
Somebody buys the blueprints of the house and builds the house all over the country, all like hundreds of them. So the house itself doesn't keep reappearing it's just that there's duplicates of it.
It's franchised out like Burger King.
Yeah. This guy was obsessed with it. So it's in a roundabout kind of way. It's almost kind of like the Lamanchard configuration from Hellraiser. You know what I mean? How there's different ones. There's the cube, and then there's a bunch. If you ever read the Hellraiser comics from Epic, which I was reading back then too, I read it. Yeah, I read a lot of weird stuff. That's now that I think about it. Because at the end of the series, it's destroyed, like it's gone, and then it pops up again in that 2-issue series. So yeah, it kind of does that. It sort of reappears in different places, and
are the secrets in your mind?
That's right.
Oh, the pantry of secrets.
Yeah. I have to ask the question. Do you get more time travel stories? I didn't understand what was going on. Like all of a sudden, Rain was back in like 100 years earlier at some sort of like beach resort.
Well, the plot to kill Theodore Roosevelt. Yeah. So the next few issues, like 11, 12, are the history of the jurist guys. So there is not so much time travel, but like you learn more about Ruby, the one from the 1960s Mississippi. You learn a little bit more about Fultz, the German guy who's not a good guy at all. You learn more about Neon from Japan. Like it goes through all of that. They do go into the basement a little bit, and you get to learn more about the people that are already down there.
their histories and things like that. Yeah, so it goes certain places. The idea at the end of the book was that it was going to go on as like mini series, and they only did one, and that was the end of it. So
real quickly, before we get to commercial break, the one other thing we didn't talk about that Mikey did mention a couple times was the art. Teddy Kristiansen's art in this is a little bit different. Chad, art-wise, what'd you think?
Once again, it's one of those things where I can definitely see the appeal. It didn't land for me because it's not punk rock, it's grunge. And I can respect punk rock, and like you get like somebody like a Sienkiewicz who's like a master of their craft and doing all kinds of weird, fun, crazy stuff. Like that's visually interesting to me. And here it's like there's an aesthetic there, and I can respect the aesthetic, but it didn't land for me. It looked, I don't want to say unfinished. Like there's definitely a style there. It was grungy. It fit what it was meant to do. I just don't like what it was doing. So,
right.
What else did Teddy Kristiansen do, Mikey?
Oh, Teddy, honestly, there is a graphic novel that the team, Steven Seagle and Teddy Kristiansen, do that actually, I think I'm going to give you guys homework. I seriously am. Going to give you homework, and I want you guys to read this. It's not going to make you like House of Secrets any more or less, but there's a book that Steven Seagle did called It's a Bird. It's a fully painted Teddy Kristiansen, so it's a little same style, but a little bit more in depth. And it's about the burden of having to write Superman. That when Steven Seagle, when he was tapped to write a Superman story, it's about the burden that comes with it, and he ties his childhood into it. And it's an incredible graphic novel. Like it's phenomenal. And like I said, it's not going to make you fall in love with this book anymore, but it may make you may look at it and see Teddy Kristiansen's art in a different way. I really, really, really hope you guys will take me up on that and read it. Shit, I would buy you guys a copy of it because it's like the best Superman graphic novel that doesn't technically have Superman in it that I've ever read. So I would have picked it actually technically, but it didn't. It's not scary, and it had superheroes in it. So I think that's actually probably going to be my pick at the end of the episode.
Okay.
Is that? But yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
Is there any joy in there? Or is it
there
all rape and despair? And
there is joy to it. There is
okay. I could see myself appreciating Teddy Kristiansen more on a story that I appreciated more. Like I don't think it's his fault. There are parts of that art that I could definitely find myself digging. I don't know. I keep trying to place it like take Mike Mignola, but not as good.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how to do it.
Teddy Kristiansen did Sandman Midnight Theater, which was the one shot where Wesley Dodds meets Morpheus. That came out, which is really cool. There's an issue of Solo. You remember Solo? DC put out this really awesome book, Solo.
I love Solo.
His was number 8. It's got Dead Man on the cover, and it's awesome.
John J. Muth, is that who I'm thinking of? Where it's a little John J. Muthy?
Yeah, he's awesome.
Works with JM all the time.
His fully painted stuff is gorgeous,
I think I would have liked to have seen that, honestly. So I'd like to try to get to recommendations. We'll be right back with more of the Last Comic Shop right after this with ratings for House of Secrets as well as recommendations, and maybe we'll talk more about this. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a commercial break, and it's right here.
Greetings, ghouls and boils. I'm the Ghoul Master, a loving homage to horror anthology narrators of yesteryear. Wait, I'm an homage? Why didn't anybody tell me? You'll hear from my agent about this. But first, let's get to the heart of the matter. I'm here to tell you about the new horror anthology, Memoirs of the Morbid, on Kickstarter in time for Halloween. Memoirs of the Morbid is a black and white homage to classic horror comics from the 40s and 50s, containing 5 self-contained stories by some of the best indie comic creators out there. There's that word again. I better not find out homage is an insult. Anyways, Memoirs of the Morbid is completely done and ready to go to the printer. So don't make a grave mistake by missing it.
LastComicShopPodcast.com is the destination for all things shop. Plan your week with upcoming show schedules, the latest books, recommendations, and chatter from the crew. Subscribe to the show on all major podcasting platforms from one convenient location. Show your support and browse the merch store. T-shirts, tanks, hoodies for the fam, coffee mugs, magnets, totes, and more. Check out exclusive content through the show's YouTube channel and follow the pod on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and others. All this and so much more at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com. www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com.
All right, we're back with more Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for ratings, where it's no secret that we have this segment on every single show. We like to not only talk about comic books, but give it a 1 out of 4 scale, just in case anybody is really interested in what our stupid opinions are. I mean, again, we're doing this podcast. You can take it or leave it, in terms of these grades, but part of our show. Jay, what's our 1 out of 4 scale this week?
Rather appropriately, 1 out of 4 secrets.
It's almost your NPR voice. It's almost your.
That's right.
It's almost your tote bag voice.
I'm walking a very fine line between NPR and those 1-900 numbers you used to call in the 80s.
If you'd like to get a tote bag, I'll bring it right to your house. We'll start off with J.A. I mean, again, whenever I think of the 90s, all I can think of is his Doc Martens and all of his CDs in those big binders. So, J.A., what did you think? What are you giving it?
Yeah, I struggled with the art, the first part of the story, because I believed everything she said, and then I found out I couldn't believe anything she said, and it made me angry. Unreliable narration. Be damned. But then that one-off story and especially how the house came about, I started to reevaluate what I was reading. And I think it has its place. I do like comic books that aren't just sort of the norm, the hero journey, cape and cowl and whatnot. But at the same time, this is very, very dark, and you sometimes need a bit of sunlight through all the darkness. And maybe we get that later on. There doesn't seem to be a lot of sunlight through all this. I guess because bad guys got their comeuppance? I don't know. So I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It's not something I would read unless it was handed to me. But I'm glad I read it, I guess. So it's like a 2.75.
All right, I'm going to go next, and I think I'm going to echo some of J.A.'s sentiments. I definitely did not enjoy the first 5 issues, even despite all of the grunge music and trying to reconnect with my 90s roots. I was really struggling with it because, again, I think I had some expectations about this book, as I mentioned earlier, that really didn't line up with what I was ultimately given, right? I thought we were going to read House of Secrets. I thought it was going to be more of an anthology book. And sure, to Mikey's point, there's anthology aspects of it. But I couldn't shake for the first 5 issues that this was somebody going like, hey, what's super popular? Sandman. You know what we should do? Another Sandman book. Dude, if I wanted to read Sandman, I'd read Sandman, right? That's what I would do. And so I'm getting this Rain Girl, and she's in her Dester jacket with her weird hair or whatever. And I was just like, come on. But I won't lie that I'm glad that I continued to read it because, as J.A. said, once I got to issue 6, and, the change in artist did help a little bit. It started to get into more of an anthology. And then issue 7 came around, and I was like, wow, where was this series? Because this is different. This is neat. When they were telling the story about how the house was built, and you got the one storyline about the guy torturing people and going into madness, building the blueprints for this house. And then you had the other story about the Native American and the, wanting to mate with this chief's daughter and stealing it from this rival, and then how the rival killed his son. It was all interesting. And this torrid love affair between the woman and the person that was actually building the house and how he leaves it. All great stuff. And then you follow that up with issues 9 and 10, which was just kind of like this time travel story, which, again, I didn't need to know why the person was time traveling back there, but it was just kind of neat to see these characters put in a different position, put in a different time period, trying to figure things out. It was kind of like a quantum leap kind of thing. And I was like, oh, this is kind of neat. I like this. And maybe if the series continues like this, where we got a little bit more interesting, different ideas, I could get behind it. But for what I read, the first 5 issues were probably like a 1. The last couple were like a 2.5. I got to give this an average of about a 2. It was a pretty good book. It was average. You should check it out if you're really into 90s Vertigo. Let's just say that. Chad.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I was not the biggest 90s Vertigo kid. My 90s comics were big and dumb and boisterous, and they have a whole laundry list of faults of their own. Because keep in mind, 96, I'm 16, 17 years old when this book is coming out. But it was a whole different style, and I always sort of looked at some of these Vertigo books as these were for the older kids, and it was a little bit pretentious in my mind, and I probably have a bit of a chip on my shoulder. Well, it's like, oh, I guess I'm not as cool as you are. Guy in a big coat in the middle of a hot summer day. As I walk on by and like, oh, I'm going to go and smile and enjoy life in the sun. You're going to go smoke cigarettes behind the side of the building and
give myself a name that's Rain and move to Seattle where it rains all the time.
That's right.
Yeah. Like the unironic, like, there's no fun with it here. And that was the ethos of the time. So I'm not faulting the book. We go back and we read things that belong in the time that they came from. And this is that. At the end of the day, I'm not the biggest horror guy. Like, sometimes if there's a good hook, that'll get me, I'll jump in and be excited about it. But as Jay alluded to, with our narrator not being like a likable human, that was tough. I'm always affected by the stuff that I read, and like we get these rape scenes and these violent scenes and these self-harm scenes, and it was just it's tough, man. I don't like swimming around in those seas, and so once again, for the people that dig this sort of thing, it's of its time, it's of its place. It just was a whole big nut for me, so I'm gonna give it a 2.5 because I don't think it was bad. I think it was what it was, and it's unapologetic about that. So that's worth something. It's just not a house I'd like to visit. I don't want the secrets.
Mikey, finish us off.
It's very, very, very 90s. It is very, very dark. It is very unpleasant. Those kind of things. I mean, I'd give it a nice middle of the road, like 2.5. I am going to read the rest of them because it's been a long time since I read them. Actually, I am going to go through and read the rest of the series and stuff and just kind of cover those bases. But I could see why it's not everybody's cup of tea. I'm glad I got you guys to kind of read. So I don't want you to think that all I read is like really, really angry stuff.
No. But keep in mind, Mikey, that we've never read any Hellblazer on this show. So next time, give you an assignment. Just say, "Oh, Hellblazer! That's something we should read."
This is Andy giving you your choice. As Jay will lament, like, why don't you pick a book, Mikey, that's Hellblazer?
That's right. I will do that.
It's your choice.
Well, we're going to give you some other books that are my choice. They're the recommendations. One of them's my choice. One of them's one that I think you should pick up. But that's in addition to House of Secrets, which you can pick up in a variety of different formats. I do think there were some trades issued of House of Secrets way back in the 90s. Maybe you can still find them at your local comic book store, as well as the single issues still available. And if you can, and you are inclined, check it out. But here's some other books. We're going to go ahead and start off with J.A. Scott, because I think this book just came recently in the mail for him, right?
Well, one of them did. It's a 3-issue miniseries that it's all issues 1s. Because of the way they did it, it was a celebration of the Man-Thing's 50th anniversary. They did Avengers, Curse of the Man-Thing, Volume 1, Issue 1. Spider-Man, Curse of the Man-Thing, Volume 1, Issue 1, and X-Men, Curse of the Man-Thing, Volume 1, Issue 1, and you can get them in a trade paperback. And the 3 parts basically come together to tell this story where there is this new villainess called Harrower who is set on destroying the Earth, and how she's going to do it is she grows up all these ominous vegetable bulbs around the Earth, and then when the sun hits them, they start exuding Man-Thing fire and then burning everything. her plan to burn the Earth. And so Man-Thing teams up with the Avengers, with both Spider-Mans, Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and X-Men led by Magic to destroy this villainess, to save the Earth from being burned by his own fire. And then he goes in and does some retrospective work on himself and goes into his own reality plane, and it ends with him ultimately confronting Belasco, because that is, I guess, the guy who created Man-Thing. Or is that a retcon? I don't know. Written by Steven Orlando with great art by Francesco Mobili and Guru EFX.
Yeah. Just for those folks that may be interested, originally Man-Thing, Ted Sallis, was trying to recreate the super soldier serum, and then he was attacked. Similar to Swamp Thing, like ran into the muck. Later on, Steve Gerber made him become like the guardian of the nexus of all realities, which was located in the Florida Everglades, and then he became more of a mystical character. But initially, he was just a swamp monster, just like Swamp Thing. In any case, my recommendation this week is some of the works of Junji Ito. As you may or may not know, on the last Comic Shop, ever since Ethan came on our program and started having us read mangas such as One Piece and Demon Slayer, I've become pretty into that particular genre of comics. And so I've been trying to dip my toes into varieties of different series. And at the Halloween time, I thought, wow, there's somebody that I've never read any of his work. He is one of the masters of manga horror. And so I decided to pick up one of his collection of short stories that was released in 2024. It was called Alley. And again, like a lot of his other books, this is a collection of 10 short stories, him doing both the art and the story itself. A lot of his stories deal with pretty graphic body horror. That seems to be a common thread throughout most of his stuff. So won't lie, again, not a book for the kiddies. Not even a book for preteens or whatever. This is truly for teenagers and above. But you get some really interesting stories. There's this one, Descent. Everybody starts disappearing on the ground and then falling from the sky. And like they blame it on this one person who's having these dreams about who's going to fall next. And then they try to kill him. That one's kind of weird. There's another story called Alley, in which a teenager goes to a boarding house and he looks out in this secret alleyway and he sees ghostly shadows on the wall. And he's like, what's going on there? And there's all this murder and horrible, terrible stuff. There's a really interesting one called Town of No Roads, where this teenage girl has lots of people trying to peek at her, poking holes in her walls and looking at her, and she has no privacy, and she goes to some other town and everybody's wearing masks. It's really creepy stuff, but really, really good. I've become a huge fan now of Junji Ito, and I will be checking out some of his other horror anthology books because he's got tons of them. But if you're looking for one of the recent ones, Alley is right up your alley. Chad.
Okay, so I'm going to go with a palate cleanser for me, and a book that in my mind is kind of the opposite of The House of Secrets. And it has just recently wrapped up, so you can find the last issue of this 12-issue series at your local comic shops, probably right now. And hopefully you can find the rest of those back issues to flesh that out, or hopefully there'll be a nice collection here shortly. But I'm going to recommend Batman and Robin Year One. Written by Mark Waid with beautiful art by Chris Somney. And this is a superhero story. And it does have, some dark moments. You do have horrific things that Batman and Robin have to face, whether it's Two-Faces or gangsters or Clayface things or American adoption system. Trials and tribulations for Batman and Dick Grayson to endure and work their way through. But there's also that family aspect. There's also that lightness at it. There's also, those moments that remind you why you like these characters. And I saw a review online that's like, this reminds me of the Batman the Animated Series in the best way, where it's, mature, but at the same time appropriate for kids, like that sort of thing. Yeah, I need something to give me a little bit more hopefulness there. So Batman and Robin Year One. It's tons of fun. It's beautiful art. 12 issues. Check your local comic shops. Should still be there. Good luck.
All right. Mikey, Do you have something else, or you want to talk a little bit more about It's a Bird?
No, I mean, really, honestly, I think It's a Bird would be a great choice because it's the same creative team, and it's more of a sort of autobiographical story. The weight of writing Superman, Steven finding out about his family's medical history, things he wasn't told about his family's medical history, specifically like a neurodegenerative disease that runs in his family. It's not a bummer because at the end of it, there's sort of a joyful kind of thing. But yeah, that's really something that I think everybody should read, honestly. I think it's a great essay on Superman and the weight of the creative elements of things, and on sort of the weight of family and what that means to a creative person. So yeah, still my choice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what? It actually sounds a lot like a recommendation Chad's mentioned a couple times on this show, that Paul Dini book about his mugging.
Yeah. So it is Dark Knight, a true Batman story by Paul Dini.
But also kind of autobiographical, but also talking about writing one of the major characters of DC and kind of weaving in those personal stories.
It's the guy going through trauma, and he's got the characters in his head helping him and not helping him as he's traversing some things in his road to recovery. But yeah, definitely that one is worth checking out as well.
Well, one other thing that's also worth checking out is the Last Comic Shop. For the rest of October, we're going to have other spooky related stories for your ear holes. Next week, we've got Godzilla Monster Piece Theater. It's Chad's pick for our spooky season. And we're going to be finishing off with Somna by Becky Cloonan and Tula Lote. So make sure that if you want to check out some awesome horror and spooky related comic books, that you're checking out us, you can do that by rate, reviewing, and subscribing over at www.lastcomicshop.podcast.com.
Mine's not really all that spooky. It's just kind of weird and fun.
Well, it's got monsters in it, though. Come on.
It does have monsters.
It's got Dracula. It's coming
and literary figures.
Yeah.
Is it Frankencastle? Frankencastle by any chance?
I love Frankencastle. I never finished it. They never addressed it, do they? Is it like...
Oh, they totally MacGuffin it back. He gets a gem that heals him, and he goes back to society, and he's the Punisher again.
Boo.
Okay. I was wondering how they addressed that, how they brought it back to reality, because, you know...
Hey, but that's an episode of The Last Comic Shop. If you're interested, go check out our back archives for our episode about Frankencastle.
Yeah, speaking of, if you caught it in our feed recently, Andy cooked up another spooky mega pack of podcast episodes. So there's that.
Frankencastle's among them, too. There you go.
Check it out today or yesterday or in the future or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, we might be the Last Comic Shop podcast. Don't want to be the Last Comic Shop, so we encourage everybody to get out there and support your local shops, whether it's through Sun Secrets. I've seen some of those issues in the book bins out there, so they're out there. Or maybe it's the Curse of the Man thing, where they're all number ones, but what order do you read them in? You'll figure it out. Or Junji Ito's Alley, which I have to check out. That's unfamiliar for me. My recommendation was the Batman and Robin Year One, and then Mikey came in with It's a Bird by Steven Seagle and Teddy Kristiansen. And all that and more potentially waits for you at your local comic shop. Check it out today. And then you can find us on the socials. We're at Last Comic Shop Podcast. And then you can always go back to the website, www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com, where you can find links to said socials. You can find links to said mega packs. You can find links on links on links on links. And what else can they find links for, J.A.?
They can find links to our merch store, where all this month we've got the Halloween special Last Comic Shop t-shirt for sale, or you can get it on a coffee mug or a tote bag if you want that design. Hats.
A spooky hat. A scary tote bag.
Yes.
Put your candy in there.
And if you're feeling nostalgic for the 90s, pair up your Last Comic Shop t-shirt with a waffle print undershirt, and you'll be all good.
Oh,
I do love those waffle. I still wear waffle print shirts under my...
Like the Hardy Boys?
Yeah, you know.
Long sleeve, like the long sleeve waffle print.
with short sleeves over long sleeves.
I'm thinking the the string waffles like Jeff Hardy would wear. I got something else.
I think that's what we're talking about, like the Hardy Boys in wrestling. Yeah, no. That's I still wear that stuff all the time, as well as my last comic shop shirts. Because
you dress like the Hardy Boys in real life?
Wow.
Well, you know what? I gotta be styling and profiling, especially when I'm trying to protect my comic books, right? It's gotta look like I got a little bit of cash if I got some of these great comic books. I gotta keep them looking fresh and clean. And what's a great way to do that, Mikey?
A great way of doing that would be to purchase some comic book storage supplies from BCW Supplies. BCW Supplies are a wonderful company that produce things like comic book boxes, everything from the cardboard ones that I can afford to the fancy it's a drawer things that Chad buys, and plastic ones that none of us can afford, and resealable comic book bags that I love, and if you don't love them, ones you gotta put a piece of tape on, and then backing boards, and they have different sizes, and we have a code that you could use that lets you get all of that stuff for even cheaper than it already is. It's LCS Pod. LCS for Last Comic Shop. P as in Paul, OD for podcast. LCS Pod gives you 10%.
Is like some of the characters in this story.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
All right. 10% off, putting that promo code in at checkout. Save yourself a little bit of cheddar and help the Last Comic Shop in the process.
And save yourself from don't fall into pits of despair, pantries of judgment, and horrific drug use.
Put your comic books in your pantry. Right. Put them right next to the Raisin Bran. Then you'll be, oh boy, this is sad that I got ramen noodles and comics. That's it. And some yellow mustard. Until next week, I was the host, Danny Larson. I was joined by Chad Smith, Jay Scott, and the wonderful Mikey Wood. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Mikey. We love you, and we hope to have you back soon. Until next week, stay safe, stay spooky. That's right. We've got 2 more weeks of this spooky jazz, and then it'll be Halloween, and then people will be thinking about Christmas. And remember that before they invented crowbars, most crows just drank at home.
That's a good one. I like that one.
They're not all bad, just most of them.
That's right.
Comic Shop Podcast was a 2025 Black Angus production.